Good morning, dear students. So the next topic we are going to deal with is osmoregulation and kidney function regulation. So what is meant by osmoregulation? Osmoregulation means maintaining salt and water balance in the body. Okay, maintaining salt and water balance in the body is called as osmoregulation. So what are the hormones that regulate salt and water balance in the body? The hormones that regulate salt and water balance in the body are antidiuretic hormone, aldosterone, and angiotensin 2. Okay, antidiuretic hormone is also called as vasopressin. Right. So the kidney functions are regulated. That means the kidney functions are monitored and regulated by hormonal control feedback mechanism. Okay, hormonal control feedback mechanism. So the hormonal control feedback mechanism includes hypothalamus, juxtaglomerular apparatus, and heart. So all these are involved in the maintaining the kidney function. Okay, let us see the next one, osmoregulation. So osmoregulation occurs when these hormones are released. For example, you take this one, the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. So on this on the roof of the hypothalamus, there are osmoreceptors. Okay, so when the volume of body decreases, okay, when the volume of body decreases, or loss of body fluids. Loss of body fluids means in the form of sweat and in the form of urine. Okay, when the loss of body fluids occurs, what is happening? The volume of the body fluids is decreasing. That means the volume of blood is decreasing, the volume of body fluids are decreasing. So when the volume of body fluids are decreasing, they are activating the osmoreceptors. Where these osmoreceptors are present? On the roof of the hypothalamus. So these activated osmoreceptors stimulate the hypothalamus. They're stimulating the hypothalamus for what? They're stimulating the hypothalamus to secrete and release antidiuretic hormone. So this hypothalamus is secreting and releasing antidiuretic hormone. This antidiuretic hormone enters into the neurohypophysis. Okay, this neurohypophysis is storing the antidiuretic hormone and releasing this antidiuretic hormone into the blood circulation. You have to remember that neurohypophysis does not secrete any hormones. It stores and releases the hormones secreted by the hypothalamus only. So what is the function of this antidiuretic hormone? Antidiuretic hormone increases the reabsorption of water from a distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct. Okay, so it is increasing the reabsorption of water from distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct and prevents diuresis. Diuresis means what? Diuresis means excessive loss of water through urine. Okay, excessive loss of water through urine is called as diuresis. Why? This antidiuretic hormone is activating only DCT and CD means, yes, the DCT and CD are having the receptors for this hormone. You all know that a specific hormone binds to a specific receptor. So when these hormones are binding to these receptors, because the ADH receptors are present on DCT and CD, so the ADH is activating the DCT and CD to reabsorb more water. Right. So when the volume of blood increases, that means that when the volume of body fluids are increasing, or when the volume of blood is increasing due to more reabsorption of water from DCT and CD, then the osmoreceptors are switched off. That means the osmoreceptors become inactive. So when the osmoreceptors are inactive, then there is no secretion of ADH. That means suppression of antidiuretic hormone occurs. This mechanism is called as a negative feedback mechanism. Okay. When the volume of blood is less, ADH is secreted. When the volume of blood is more, ADH is stopped. So due to the suppression of ADH, there is less water reabsorption and more urine is formed. Okay, more urine is formed. Let us see a condition called as diabetes insipidus. So diabetes insipidus is due to a deficiency of antidiuretic hormone or defects in the antidiuretic hormone receptors. So due to defects in the antidiuretic receptors, it is causing diabetes insipidus. Right. So what are the symptoms of diabetes insipidus? The symptoms of diabetes insipidus includes excessive thirst, more dilute urine, dehydration, fall in blood pressure, that is low blood pressure. So these are the symptoms of diabetes insipidus. Like more dilute urine means the person excretes more urine per day. Generally, a normal person excretes 1 to 1.5 liter of urine per day, but the person suffering with diabetes insipidus may excrete 18 liters of urine per day. Okay, so urine is more diluted, less concentrated urine is coming, right? So let us go for the next one, RAS mechanism. So RAS mechanism is also called as renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. When does RAS mechanism occurs? RAS mechanism occurs due to low NaCl concentration, low sodium chloride concentration. When sodium salts are less, then there is low blood pressure. Low blood pressure causes low GFR. That means the blood pressure is less, means blood flowing from efferent arteriole into the glomerulus will be moving with less pressure. So due to less hydrostatic pressure, the glomerular filtration rate also decreases. When the glomerular filtration rate decreases, what it is doing? The GFR is stimulating juxtaglomerular cells of kidney to secrete renin. Okay, so this juxtaglomerular apparatus is formed how? Juxtaglomerular apparatus is the region between this is the efferent artery and this is the distal convoluted tubule. So this efferent artery and distal convoluted tubule comes in contact at one point. So the point of contact between the efferent artery and distant DCT will form special structures. In DCT, the cells, okay, so the modified epithelial cells are aggregating. That means they are grouping together to form macula densa. Whereas in efferent artery, the smooth muscle cells of efferent artery aggregate. That means they are grouping to form the juxtaglomerular cells. So the juxtaglomerular cells plus macula densa together forms juxtaglomerular apparatus. Okay, right. Now what this juxtaglomerular apparatus or renin is doing now? So when there is the GFR is decreasing, the GFR stimulates the JG cells to secrete renin. So what this renin is doing? Renin acts on angiotensinogen. This angiotensinogen is produced by liver. So this angiotensinogen in the presence of renin is converted into angiotensin 1. So angiotensin 1 in the presence of angiotensin converting enzyme, this angiotensin converting enzyme is secreted by lungs, is converted into angiotensin 2. And this angiotensin 2 stimulates adrenal cortex to release aldosterone. You know that aldosterone acts on DCT and CD to reabsorb more water and sodium salts. Right, now let us see what is the function of aldosterone. Aldosterone increases the reabsorption of sodium and water. From where? From DCT and CD. And also secretion of potassium ions. And constriction of blood vessel. So this aldosterone is also involved in the constriction of blood vessels and increases blood pressure. When the blood pressure increases, the glomerular filtration also increases. So this is very important for the NEET examination. So you have to remember the functions of aldosterone. Second one, which enzymes are secreted by what? For example, let us see renin. Renin is secreted by JG cells. Angiotensinogen is secreted by liver. Angiotensin converting enzyme is secreted by lungs, and aldosterone is secreted by adrenal cortex. So very important to this one. This one you will get as a match the following question, right? Now let's go for the next one. There is another ANF and ANP. That means atrial natriuretic factor or atrial natriuretic peptide. So when the blood flow to the right atrium increases, that means blood flow to the right atrium is increasing, means the deoxygenated blood is flowing more into the right atrium. So when the blood flow to the right atrium increases, the muscles of right atrium release ANF or ANP. So the muscles of right atrium are releasing what? Atrial natriuretic factor or atrial natriuretic peptide. So this causes the the ANF is causing the relaxation of smooth muscles of the blood vessels. So if you see the blood vessel, so this one is the normal blood vessel. Okay. So now when the ANF is released, the smooth muscles have been relaxed. So what happened to the blood vessel? The blood vessel is undergoing dilated. So the blood vessel is dilated. It is enlarged when compared to this one. So the blood pressure decreases. When the blood pressure decreases, it is inhibiting RAS mechanism. RAS mechanism is increasing blood pressure. ANF is decreasing blood pressure. Okay. So when blood pressure decreases, what is happening? RAS mechanism has been stopped. Again, after the still the blood pressure decreases, then the RAS mechanism gets activated. Okay. So let us go for the schematic representation of this one. Low GFR, low sodium chloride, and low BP stimulate JG cells to secrete renin. So angiotensinogen secreted by liver is converted into angiotensin 1 in the presence of renin. Angiotensin 1 in the presence of angiotensin converting enzyme, this enzyme is secreted by lungs, is converted into angiotensin 2. This angiotensin 2 stimulates the adrenal cortex to release the aldosterone. Aldosterone increases the reabsorption of sodium and water from DCT and CD and secretion of potassium. And angiotensin 2 is also a powerful vasoconstrictor. So angiotensin 2 also increases the blood pressure, right? So let us go for the next one, other micturition and other organs involved in the process of excretion. Let us continue the remaining part of the excretory system. So next one is micturition. Micturition means it is a passage of urine to outside. Okay, how the micturition occurs means micturition occurs due to neural signal. Okay, so micturition is a voluntary act. So whenever you desire for urination, then only the urination occurs. So micturition is controlled by central nervous system. Okay, so the central nervous system, how the central nervous system will get the signals for to send the micturition means receptors present in the wall of urinary bladder are called as stretch receptors. So you can see here the urinary bladder. I have marked with red color things. So red color things are called as stretch receptors. So these stretch receptors, whenever when the urinary bladder is completely filled up with the urinary bladder enlarges. So when the R dilates, we can use the word dilate. When the urinary bladder is dilating, the stretch receptors send sensory signals to the central nervous system. The central nervous system sends motor signals to the urinary bladder. So what happens when the motor signals are received? It causes the contraction of muscles of urinary bladder and or relaxation of urethral sphincter. So this causes the urination, right? Then urine. So urine is light yellow or straw colored fluid. So color of the urine is due to urochrome. What is urochrome? When the hemoglobin is broken down into heme and globin, the heme consists of bile pigments. So these bile pigments are converted into stenobulin and urochrome. So stenobulin is excreted sent out along with the fecal matter. So the yellow color of fecal matter is due to stenobulin. Urochrome is sent out along with the urine. So pale yellow color of urine is due to urochrome, right? Then pH of urine is 6. Okay, when the urine is exposed to the atmosphere, it produces a foul smell because in the urine there is urea. This urea, when exposed to the air, it produces a foul smell. That means we feel ammonia smell. What is the composition of urine? In the urine, we can see water 95%, electrolytes, okay, then solutes like urea 2.6%, uric acid 0.3%, creatinine, urobilinogen, okay, and urea. So urea excreted per day is 25 to 30 grams. Here they'll be asking an application question. If GFR is 180 liters per day, how much urea is excreted means urea excreted is 25 to 30 grams. This is the standard. So they may increase the GFR. Okay, if the GFR is 360, then urea excreted is 50 to 60 grams. Like that you have to go, right? So let us go for the next one. Other organs. So what are the other organs that play an important role in the excretion means liver. First one, let us go for the lungs. Lungs eliminate carbon dioxide. That means they are eliminating 200 ml of carbon dioxide per minute, and also water vapor in the form of water vapor. Liver eliminates bilirubin, biliverdin, degraded steroid hormones, cholesterol, vitamins, and drugs. Then skin. So the skin consists of sweat glands, okay, and sebaceous glands. Sweat glands secrete sweat. What is the composition of sweat means? The sweat consists of sodium chloride, urea, and lactic acid. This is one of the mostly asked questions. They'll be asking you these type of questions also. Next one, sebaceous glands. Sebaceous glands secrete sebum and eliminates sterols, hydrocarbons, and wax. And large intestine. Large intestine eliminates metals also. Okay, large intestine is eliminating metals. Next one, disorders. So disorders are very important. So uremia. Uremia means what? Presence of excess of urea in blood is called as uremia. So uremia causes damage to kidney. So what is the treatment for uremia means hemodialysis. Then what is the reason for presence of excess of urea in blood means the reason for excess of urea in blood is due to hypertension, diabetes, and glomerular nephritis. All these three are responsible for the presence of excess of urea in the blood. Next one, renal calculi. Renal calculi means kidney stones. Okay, what are these kidney stones means? The kidney stones are hard crystalline structures. Why they are formed? They are formed due to high concentration of uric acid and oxalates. What is the main reason for the formation of kidney stones means? Dehydration. Dehydration is the major reason for the formation of kidney stones. Next one, glomerular nephritis. Glomerular nephritis means inflammation of glomerulus or small blood vessels of kidney. You all know that glomerulus means it is present in the Bowman's capsule. Okay, so if the network of blood capillaries present in the Bowman's capsule is called as glomerulus. So if these blood vessels are inflamed, then we call that one as glomerular nephritis. Why glomerular nephritis occurs means due to infections caused by bacteria, viruses, parasites, and also diabetes. So diabetes is a silent killer affecting many organs. So what is the mechanism for hemodialysis means? Hemodialysis is done by artificial kidney. Okay, so this is the artificial kidney. Inside the artificial kidney, there is a cellophane tubes and also dialyzer fluid. Okay, so this is the fluid present in the artificial kidney. So cellophane tubes and dialyzer fluid are present. So the cellophane tube is impermeable to macromolecules. Impermeable to macromolecules means such as plasma, proteins. But the cellophane tubes are permeable to urea, uric acid, creatinine, and mineral ions. So simply you can say that sodium chloride also, right? So how the dialyzing occurs? Dialyzing occurs when the blood is extracted from a vein. Okay, sorry, when the blood is extracted from a suitable artery by adding heparin. You all know that heparin is anticoagulant. Okay, this anticoagulant and this blood is flowed into the cellophane tubes. So you know that the dialyzer fluid is free of any ions. So through the cellophane tube, the sodium, okay, nitrogenous waste materials diffuses into the dialyzer fluid. And this filtered blood passes into the, again, back into the body through a suitable vein. So when the blood is flowing back into the vein, anti-heparin is added. So how much time it takes for hemodialysis means it takes around 2 to 6 hours. Hemodialysis takes around 2 to 6 hours. So let us see the procedure I have given here again. Procedure hemodialysis. Machine or apparatus is called as dialyzing unit or hemodialyzer. Liquid use dialysate or dialyzing fluid. Composite dialysate means similar to plasma except the absence of nitrogenous waste. So plasma minus nitrogenous waste is called as dialysate. Okay, what happens during hemodialysis? During hemodialysis, blood is drawn from artery and heparin is added to blood immediately after the blood is drawn. Then blood is pumped into the dialyzer. In this, the blood flows through the cellophane tubes. Then these cellophane tubes are impermeable to plasma proteins and macromolecules, permeable to solutes like urea, uric acid, and creatine. The cellophane tube separates the blood and dialysing fluid. As dialysing fluid is free of nitrogenous waste, the nitrogenous waste present in the blood diffuses into the dialysing fluid. Right. So that completes about the blood body fluids and excretion. Okay, the excrete system is completed. In the next classes, we'll go for the evolution. After that, we'll see the remaining topics. Okay, have a nice day. Thank you.